Okay, lesson 4, midpoint. Let's go through some vocabulary to start off with and some symbols, and then we'll get going into the lesson. Okay, a point that divides the segment into two equal parts. Now, that is what our lesson's about, which is called a midpoint. Okay. What we see and then what we say about midpoint. So let's make sure we can all see the lingo and talk the lingo here. So we have a line segment here. And the line segment, let's call it A is the point and C is the other endpoint. And that B is the midpoint, so it's right here in the middle. Literally, it's in the middle of that. So B is the midpoint. Now, we don't know actually if that's the midpoint until we specifically set it, but visually we can know sometimes it's the midpoint by putting these tick marks in here. By putting those tick marks in there, that tells me that those two segments are congruent. And the only way that they can be congruent is if B is directly in the middle. So if AC was a length of 10 and B is in the middle, then those two segments would be 5 and 5. So if they tell us those segments were 5 and 5, 10 and 10, 11 and 11, or that we had those tick marks there, that means B is the midpoint of segment AC. So if B is the midpoint, so what we say then is the length of AB is equal to the length of BC. Or you could reverse the order and say BA or CB. Now using the congruent symbol, I know it sounds silly, but it's the same idea, but using the congruent symbol in the middle, this is where we would say segment AB is congruent to segment BC. Or you could also reverse the order there, okay? Oops. I said CB. All right. So then let's go ahead and find the answer to question 1. The midpoint of AB. So midpoint of AB, what I want you to get in the habit of doing is taking the average. If we were in class, what I would have most of you guys would probably do is you would start to kind of count to the middle to see where you land. Well, in class, or we're not in class, so the gist of it is for the midpoint, I want you to calculate the average to find the midpoint because that is the direct middle. So because we have A and B, those are two things, the average is calculated by adding them up and dividing by how many there are. Well, in this case, 5 plus 17, there's only two things. 5 plus 17 divided by 2. 5 plus 17 is 22. 22 divided by 2 is 11. So the midpoint is at a location of 11. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is where my midpoint is located, okay? Which in this case, we don't know what the midpoint is, so let's just call it M, I should say. All right, so it's about the average.